Hey, Pete.
What's up?
Well, today on Flipping Rich, we're going to be talking about flipping houses. So let's just go off and start by this. I mean, what do you consider flipping houses?
Well, it's funny. Like a lot of people just refer to our industry. Oh, you're a house flipper, right? And they encompass everything into that. But to me, flipping houses literally means you're buying a house, you're rehabbing a house, and you're selling a house. So I isolate that buy, fix, and sell strategies, flipping houses.
Oh, you do?
Yep.
Okay, so here's the question that I get asked a lot, and I'm sure you have too. Like, you've been at dinner with people that aren't in the industry, and they're like, "Oh, it is so cool. I bet you love it. I watch it on TV all the time." And I almost go, oh my God, because it's nothing like what you see on TV. How do you think flipping houses, like in our world, or let's say an experienced real estate investor, or somebody that's really doing it for a living, not in front of the cameras, how is it different than what you see on TV?
Yeah, it just reminds me of people like that say, "Oh yeah, I want to get in this industry because I like looking at houses." I'm like, really? That has zero to do with you being successful in this industry. So I look at as the flip, and there's a lot of shows right now in flipping.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
that whole side of the business has taken off in the TV industry. So good because it's great exposure. It's people coming in to neighborhoods, beautifying the neighborhoods, making properties look good. I think in the end, it makes our industry look good. That's good. Here's where it's bad. Kind of the reason probably you're like, when people are telling you that. It's totally unrealistic what they're showing you. It's unrealistic from so many different angles. Number one, timelines. You're watching a half-hour show, and, they're buying it at the very beginning, and they're selling it in the end. And it's like that half-hour show, what they're not telling you, is taking like 6 to 8 months to film. So timelines, unrealistic. Everything always gets handled, right? Like you'll see them like, "Oh, it's a disaster, it's a disaster, it's a disaster." 3 minutes later, "Oh, we solved a disaster. Everything's fine."
And you and I both know disasters are not solved quickly and that easily, right?
No, not in this business. And the other thing is, now that I think about it, that you asked me this question, I haven't watched a lot of them, but I watched some of them. I've watched some of them in the past. I can't remember last time someone ever lost money. Like and there's this one show that I did kind of watch about 4 or 5 episodes. This was the craziest thing of all. And the fact that they're showing this on TV, and like, God forbid, somebody actually decides to do what this guy was doing. But this is how every single episode started. You're like, I'm going to tell you this, you're going to be like, yeah, I don't think so. Literally, every episode started by this guy walking up to the house, and he would say something like this: "Oh, I can't wait to see the inside of it. I hope I made a purchase." So basically, every episode started with him buying a house sight unseen.
Yeah.
And like, you and I know, like, you couldn't pay us enough money to buy a home sight unseen.
No, I mean, it'd be like buying a used car without checking underneath the hood, right? I mean, why would you ever
Crazy.
do that?
It's real estate suicide. And so a lot of things, so again, from a good perspective, I think it's good exposure. It does make our industry look good. We're going in, we're fixing things up, making neighborhoods look better. But from a reality of what we do, it is like, no, that is not what our business looks like. It is absolutely not what our business looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, here's another thing, because I just kind of on this show topic. Like, when I watch these shows, even though they're about flipping houses, a lot of it's about like design aspects of flipping a house. Which, okay, I'm just going to say it. In 20 years of flipping houses, I can't even tell you right now off the top of my head how many flips we're doing right now. How many meetings do we have about design on a flip?
Yeah, like until you asked me this question, I would say in 22 years, that has never been a question anyone's ever asked me about this deal.
Yeah.
About any deal. So I would put but you know why they do it? Now that I'm thinking about it, because I'm pretty sure a majority of the people watching these shows are women.
Oh, and it's nice to see all of the
and
beautiful
there's
paint
no
colors.
question. That's right. They're appeasing the audience, but the reality is design of the house. Like, there's a deal we're doing right now in Orlando, and That did come up at the very end, and it's not even a design thing; it's a staging thing because it's a upper end home. But yeah, the value to that on TV I know is huge. From an audience, it's powerful, but from reality to like when we ever discuss that, I would say that is I hate to say zero because I'm sure somebody thinks about it. Probably the contractor at least thinks about it when they're. But in terms of what we think as investors, I'd say that's very, very low.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Oh, you know the other reason why I think it's low? It's the type of deals we do.
Yeah.
Like, let's face it, if we were doing $5 million houses, we'd probably think about it a lot more.
Or even the Orlando house, right?
Or-
it's what? How much is that house? It's a.
Well, it's that we're selling it for 700,000,
Yeah.
right? And but we
And
just
it's
bought.
got a beautiful kitchen and.
Yes, and we just bought that one in Fort Myers. That's $1 million house. And so that one, it has actually, somewhat in passing come up, but I'm like letting the local. But I do think if we were in a very high-end houses, like millions and millions and millions of dollars, we probably would put some value. But it cracks me up on these TV shows. They're doing a $150,000 home, and they're spending like 80% of the time worrying about that,
Yeah, like in a $150,000 house. Not that that's not a beautiful
cares?
house, but you better not be putting top end stuff
Yeah.
in there. You don't need a $40,000 kitchen and a
No.
$150,000 house
No.
because you never want to be the best house in the neighborhood, right? You
Yeah.
know that, I know that, or to over renovate a property, right? So off that subject, I just wanted to get that out of the way because people like that I talk to, that's the first thing they ask me, maybe because I am a woman. And I'm thinking, well, I don't even really care about that part. But
Yep.
here's what I do care about. And you were talking about this earlier, like, well, I've never even seen the house before. Peter, how important is it for you to have a property inspection done on a property before you purchase it? Like, I'm not talking about an inspection from, Joe Blow or whoever, but a licensed home inspector. How important is that, like, for you?
Yeah, well, there are certain things that'll kill a deal. The number one thing that'll kill a deal is a rehab. There's you could spend too much money on borrowing money. You could be borrowing it at 12% instead of 7%. That's not going to kill the deal. You could pay too much in closing costs. It's not going to kill a deal. You might not be able to sell it for exactly what you wanted to sell it for. It's probably not going to kill a deal. But there's one thing that'll absolutely kill a deal, and that is the rehab. And so what you're trying to do is you're trying to minimize it. And you and I still know you and I lived some horror stories where we thought we minimized it.
Yeah, I do remember a couple of those deals.
Yeah, so I don't think you could 100% isolate yourself from not getting whacked in the rehab. But I could absolutely assure you that if you do not do an inspection of that property, you're asking for problems. You're absolutely going to be asking for problems.
Absolutely. And if you don't mind, I'm going to add to it. So when we're flipping a house, right? When you're flipping a house, it's unlike wholesaling because to a wholesaler, you're mostly selling to other investors, right?
Right.
But when we're flipping a house, the goal is to sell to a retail buyer, right? Yep. So retail buyers generally do not have all cash to buy houses, do they?
No.
So they're going to get an FHA loan, a VA loan, a conventional home loan.
Yep.
And when they do those things, the banks require them to have a home inspection.
Yep.
Right? So I certainly like to know what's going to go on before we get to that point. So I like to always tell people, and so do you, it's more important to fix what's wrong than to fix what's ugly.
There's no question.
Because that will stop a deal from closing, won't it?
Yeah. Well, here's the bottom line. There's certain things that you can kind of cover up in this business, right? You could, again, everything I just mentioned, you could cover up not borrowing money correctly. You could cover up closing with the wrong closing agent. You could cover up, hiring a bad realtor. You could just fire that realtor and hire another one. You cannot cover up rehabs because someone's going to catch it. One way or another, someone's going to catch a bad rehab. Someone's going to catch if you're patching things instead of fixing things. And, so somewhere along the line, you're going to pay. And so you want to, the one area that you want to be airtight in, two areas you want to be airtight in. You want to be airtight on numbers, obviously, as much as possible, but we know that's almost impossible. And you want to be as airtight as you can on the rehab side. Also understanding that, that's almost impossible to be 100%. So then that leads why in the business we're in, numbers are so important, right? You got to have margins.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You got to have margins. You got to leave yourself room for error. You got to leave yourself room to fix this property that this house we were referencing earlier. So we bought this house for $400,000, right? Mm-hmm. I could safely make the statement after being in this business for 22 years. We buy it for $400,000. Plenty margins. We had the ability to sell it for $700,000.
Yeah.
$300,000 spread. The rehab comes up. The initial estimate was $75,000. What do I tell everybody? Ain't gonna be $75,000.
It's gonna be $115,000, $100,000.
I'm telling you, the $75,000 rehabs don't exist. They don't.
They do exist, but not if the rehab initial budget's $75,000.
Yeah.
Right.
No, $75,000 rehabs exist when you start with the $50,000 rehab.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
That's how $75,000. And I was right. The $75,000 rehab, we're into it. We're finally, we got this property under contract to be sold, but we were into it for about $110,000.
Yeah.
And here's the crazy thing about it. No fault of anyone. It's not like the contractor tried to mess us up. It's not like we missed anything really, because we literally cut through the walls of this house to make sure that all the piping was correct. Here's the crazy thing about it. We went over budget. We had to make some changes. 3 days before we go in the market, right? Now think about it. 3 days before you bring a property in the market, that's pretty done house, right? That's a house that's like 99% finished, right?
I think the cleaners were already scheduled
Maybe.
to
Yes,
go clean
I think the
house.
cleaners were. So I think you know where I'm heading with this. I get a call from them. We got some good news and some bad news. The good news is the contractor happened to be in the property. As soon as they told me that, I'm like, I could tell the bad news is going to be bad.
Yeah.
Because bottom line is he caught what happened right away, but it still happened. Somehow, remember, we cut through the walls. Now, I didn't even know this, but I guess some pipes can go underneath the house, right?
Yeah.
And so the pipes that we couldn't get to for inspection, they burst. And they flooded the kitchen. Luckily, the contractor was there, able to catch it. But that was $8,000, just like that.
Yeah, and the other crazy thing, and I'm not going to put the name of where we got that, but that was only, by the way, they busted because of the installation of our appliances.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well,
So
there you go.
it's like it was out of that contractor's control.
Oh, that's right. I did know that.
Yeah,
because
I mean, we're not going to say
yes.
the name of the company by no means, because I
Yes.
don't think they meant to do it.
I did know that. That's exactly what happened.
So,
Yes.
yeah, eventually they're going to pay you back, right?
Yes, I do remember that.
But do you got time to sit and wait for some filing to come through?
No.
Or even though this other company made this mistake,
Good luck.
you weren't going to wait 6 weeks to get this money back?
Yeah. No, it's the buy, fix, and sell part of this business is a really cool part of this business. I've been doing it forever. You and I have been doing it forever. But I think out of all the strategies out there, it is the one strategy where you could really take the biggest hit.
Yeah.
You could, because there's so many unknowns. There's too many unknowns. I mean, people say, well, on the development side, you could take a hit. You can, but at least on the development side, everything is raw. You know what I mean? You can pretty much get your costs straight. You might go over. On a rehab side, there's just too many unknowns.
Yeah.
Too many unknowns. I tell people that want to get in this business and they want to buy, fix, and sell, I tell them, listen, it's the riskiest strategy. I know it's like the sexiest part of this business, because that's where you could supposedly make the most money, which, by the way, I don't disagree with that part. But it is the one where some of the biggest mistakes are. And, here's the other crazy thing. And I shouldn't even say this because I did it myself. Doesn't it crack you up like you will meet somebody in this business, brand new person, right? Mm-hmm. And they're buying a house for like $100,000. And they're spending $120,000 fixing it. And it's like,